Hey everybody, Mungo Dark Matter here. Today I'm going to show you how to build in creative mode in Fortnite. We're going to come and find the game creator terminal here, and if we go to this terminal and hit E, it will bring up game creation window, and we just go over here to the top right and click on create new. You have a bunch of starter islands you can start with. I recommend starting either with the grid island or the large grid island because they're flat surfaces, they have a grid on them, and it makes it easier to see if things are lining up and to get used to the tools and placing the different objects and pieces in creative mode. So once you get used to creation in these modes, it will be easier when you move over to kind of a terraformed starter island, if that's what you want to do. So I'm going to pick the large grid island because that will give us plenty of space to work and try some stuff out. So I'm going to click confirm. You can name this island whatever you want. I'm going to just leave it the default name here. And it takes a minute for it to load. Once it loads, you can see as we look around as we're gliding down, it's a pretty big grid. It has grid marks on it, and there's a white square in the center. This white square is the exact center of the map. You'll want to be aware of where this is. You may even want to start building from this point, just to give you a frame of reference, and so that you don't start building something really large and end up running out of space or going too close to an edge. So I'm going to hit I to bring up inventory. The first thing I'm going to put down is this tower here. So I select this. Once it's selected, I can click on slot 1. It puts it in there. So then when I press 1, it brings up the tower. Now we are facing the front of the building right now. So that's something to keep in mind. And so we'll place it down here, and you can see the door is facing us right here. If we're a larger prefab, we might be in the center of it, so the front door would be behind us, but it's still along this axis, which is our front and our back. That's the direction that the building should be facing. So the other thing that we can note is that we can select any of these pieces. The prefab is just made out of smaller pieces. And if we go back into inventory again and look at galleries, you can see if we go into a gallery, these are the pieces that make up the buildings. And all of these buildings have been in various locations on the map of various Fortnite maps. So you may recognize some of them. So the next thing we're going to do is under galleries, we're going to look under terrain. And you can see if we click on something here, we have some cliffs and some grass and stuff here. So we're going to go back. We want to build a road as our first example. That's actually under vehicles. So under vehicles, if you look under here, you'll see a bunch of cars and stuff, like the abandoned cars and parked cars that you see often in the game. But we're going to go here to Street Gallery B, which is pavement, sidewalk, streets, and such. We're going to pick this as the first, and this is the second. So the first is kind of a straight run of road and sidewalk. The second one is the corner of when the street turns a corner. And note that in a lot of these pieces, whether they're ground pieces or other terrain pieces, there is often multiple pieces. So there may be a flat straight piece, but there may also be an inside or an outside corner that it can turn. So if we go back here and just walk over here, we're going to hit 1. All right, we're going to go to B, which is options, and we're going to make sure the grid snap is set at 2. By default it's 32. If it's set to off, you can put it anywhere, it won't snap to the grid, but you want it to snap to the grid, and having it set to 2, most things will snap to the grid correctly. Also up here under object placement is drops. You want that on because it activates gravity on the object and it will drop down to the ground, in this case our grid, or it will drop down on top of the next object below it, which makes it easier to line stuff up. So leave that on. You can experiment with these later on various pieces because, for example, some pieces it may work better if you don't have the gravity on, so you can place it where you want it exactly. All right, so we're going to hit R, and you can see this thing rotates here. You may or may not be able to see the texture. So right here we can see the texture, but we can't on the next or the next. But we know that we've turned it twice, and so it should be in the correct location if we press it down there. And that's the way we want it set. The other thing is you can hold the left mouse button down, and just like the quick build mode in the regular game, you can hold it down and just keep on moving and it will set down the piece in front of you. We can come back around, turn this way, and set down a piece here going in the other direction, and then we can select 2 and rotate it until it's in the correct spot so that we can have our corner and so on and so forth. So that's how you lay down these tiles. The other thing that we want to look at is we're going to move way over here to make sure we're out of the way of other things. We're going to try another prefab, but this is going to be a huge prefab. And we're going to go and look for Hero Mansion, which should be down here, right here. We're going to put that in slot 8. And if we hit 8, you'll see this thing is huge. Once again, we are on the axis of the front door, the front gate. The front gate is behind us in this instance because we're in the center of where the prefab will be set down. So I'm going to hit the left mouse button, and when we rise up you can see the front door is in front of us and the front gate is behind us. Now the light is changing, and you may find this annoying if you're building something and the light's changing around. So if we go to I again and go to My Island and go to Settings, up here time of day is set to default. Default will cycle it through the time. So we're going to change it to another time. I usually set it to noon. That's a good time. You can switch it to different times if you want to see what it looks like in different lights as well. So this is something you can change or set on a default so it doesn't change at all. And so if we go back to creative, make sure it saved it. Okay. So if we go back, it's now noontime, which is good. So we can see a lot better. So we want to put some parts up here so that we need a way to get up here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to galleries, and we're going to go back to terrain. And I'm going to go to this gallery right here. And I'm going to pick out a couple of pieces here. The first one that I want to pick out is this ramp right here. The next one I want to pick out is this, which is a cliff. And then we want this, which is the corner of the cliff. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here and select 3. And so now we have a ramp, which is very useful. So now we can get up there. And so if we were playing the game, we'd be able to get up there. Next thing we want to do is select 4, which is the cliff. And this is actually not the correct cliff that we want. So let me hit escape here. Let's go back into inventory again. One thing you can do is you can set out this entire gallery, and you can pull pieces out. You can copy pieces and move them back and forth. That's another way you can do it. Let's go back in here. See, this has a little edge right there. We don't want that. We want this one, actually. So let's replace that. So when we go back and we hit this and go to 4, we now have the correct one. So we can run back up here, and this is the correct cliff that we wanted. So the other thing we can do is we can go back in here and we get the corner, number 5. We want to rotate this. All right, so that helps us turn the corner there. We're going to go back to this one, rotate it until we get it to the right spot. So if we go up here, we can see we have a cliff around the side now. And so we've built this cliff around it, and we've built this ramp. We can also add and overlap other parts into this. For example, if we go back into inventory and go back to terrain, and we go to grass. It's not the grass that I want. Let's see here. There we go. This is what I want right here. So I'm going to pick this grass and put it right here in 6. So if I hit 6, you can see that the cliff is overlapping this part. But we can also go back into inventory, and we can go to this, and we can pick something like this and put that into 7, let us say. We can put it more into the cliff like that. So as you can see, it goes right up. Instead of having the gap there, we can overlap it, and it kind of merges with it. So that's something to be aware of too as you're experimenting with different pieces, particularly for terraforming. So that's how you build in Fortnite in creative mode. I'm Mungo Dark Matter, and whatever you do, enjoy the day, and I'll see you soon.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.